Assalamualaikum. Welcome to Shaping Tomorrow on IKIMfm. I'm Syafiq Borhanuddin, fellow at IKIM, a think tank in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. In this episode, alhamdulillah, we are honoured to have two young scholars with us from the Raja Zarith Sofiah Centre for Advanced Studies on Islam, Science and Civilization, RZS-CASIS, based at the University of Technology, Malaysia, UTM, Kuala Lumpur. Assalamualaikum, gentlemen.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alhamdulillah, we have first, of course, the director of RZS-CASIS, Dr. Hilmi Ramli, as well as a senior lecturer at RZS-CASIS as well, Dr. Ikhwan Azlan. Gentlemen, inshallah, we hope to learn from your insights in terms of what you understand by a vision of higher education, especially in today's context in the Muslim world, in the globalized world that we are in. As well as possibly we want to learn more in terms of how you try to realize this vision in the center that you're in, this graduate school that you're in. A rather unique and distinguished one from what we can gather. Many scholars have visited it since its inception, since its founding back in 2010, but perhaps
2011,
sorry. But perhaps we can begin with you, Dr. Hilmi, as the director of this graduate school. You're quite a young director, and congratulations for that.
Thank you.
But this is precisely what we want to learn about in this show, Shaping Tomorrow, in terms of how we can better shape our future trajectory. How do you understand and what you have learned over the years in terms of what is the vision of higher education we should be aspiring for, whether in the case of Malaysia or the Muslim world or the world at large, Dr. Hilmi?
Thank you very much, Dr. Syafiq, for having us today. I think this is indeed a great honor for us to be featured in this important program. Well, with regard to the questions, aspiration of vision of higher education, I think we should admit the fact that there have been many great contributions that the modern university have done to the society and to the humanities. Right. I think this is something that we cannot deny. Especially, for example, in terms of creating new opportunities in terms of job, inventing a new area of studies, for example,
yes.
Cutting edge research and many things. Okay. So this is something that we have to admit. Okay. And there are many also branches of sciences have been created out of this modern university. Right. But on top of this, I think perhaps we have to be sincere in ourselves. We have to be honest, in terms of asking question. Yep. Have we done sufficient, to understand the very purpose of university, which is the man, because man is the core in the university. Because man is the one who teach knowledge. Yep. Man is the one who develop knowledge. Yep. Man also the one who receive knowledge. So I think that's the most important component. Yes. Or factor that we must take into consideration.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hilmi. I think that's a very fundamental question that you're posing. Yeah. I think that reflects the vision and as well as the philosophy of this graduate school, RZS-CASIS, here that you're running, that you're working from. Ikhwan, on that note, perhaps you could share in terms of how does this fundamental question about the question of man, and his place, and in terms of the future of humanity, man, and where CASIS fits into this bigger question. Of course, as Dr. Hilmi mentioned, you're not denying that there are good achievements already being made by the higher education universities everywhere, worldwide, as well as in the country. But why was CASIS created? I mean, what value add are you bringing basically to this question?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Syafiq, and also IKIM for having us today. Just to reiterate what is mentioned by my director, that we acknowledge the immense progress that has been made in our civilization through the institution of the university. So when we speak of higher education, we immediately imagine universities, and universities has been around for more than 1,000 years. And it is undeniable that universities have contributed meaningfully and significantly to the flourishment of human society and civilization. However, there's a gap when we ask ourselves, what do we mean by a university? what is a university? So if you pursue this question more rigorously, you'll find that there are many different ideas about what university is and what role should it play. When different periods of history exhibits different roles of a university. And in our time, and universities in different nations, different countries serve different purposes. Okay? In some countries, universities is a place for cutting-edge research to push frontiers of knowledge. In some other places, universities are like the state in miniature. It's a place where children and or citizens are initiated to be fully participative in the democratic society, for example. When it comes to our country, our universities were established. These are post-colonial institutions. So whether we like it or not, the establishment of universities in this country has a lot to do with our responses to our colonial history. So that begs the question: what do we want from our universities? And what kind of education that do we mean? And when we speak of education, inevitably, like what Dr. Hilmi mentioned just now, inevitably we have to speak of the nature of man, nature of knowledge.
Right.
We speak of the worldview from which all the fundamental principles that governs the way we perceive and understand reality around us is derived.
Right.
So whatever higher education that we mean, it has to reflect this and has to acknowledge these questions, and has to do it at a rigorous level and a transparent in a transparent manner.
Yes.
That's it.
Thank you,
So,
Dr. Ikhwan. And I think in the same time, while it's very crucial, I thought that you're having this concern about higher education and its more fundamental questions. But Dr. Hilmi, I believe the both of you are continuing the journey of earlier professors, especially from the time of its founder back in 2010. Perhaps can you give us a bit of context in terms of the founding history or the institutional history of this institution, so that we can better understand how CASIS is entering this conversation about vision of higher education, which you are trying to value add and contribute towards. Dr. Hilmi.
Yeah, given the prevalent problem that we discussed early, the inception of CASIS is quite important, because we are filling the gaps, in the sense that there are many things with regard to the proper development of education must be established. And RZS-CASIS stands for Raja Zarith Sofiah Centre for Advanced Studies on Islam, Science and Civilization, was established on 21st February 2011 by our first director and founder, Professor Wan Muhammad Noor Wan Daud. Then the Vice Chancellor of UTM was Datuk Seri Professor Zaini bin Ujang. So he was very, visionary in terms of establishing a humanity school in UTM, because UTM is known as a premium university in science, technology, and engineering.
Right.
So then it is important for UTM to have this particular school in humanities and civilization. So that's why CASIS was established. And by 2018, Her Majesty Raja Zarith Sofiah, who was then the Chancellor of UTM and also the Queen of Johor, has given honour, to upgrade CASIS to be named by Her Majesty's name. That's why we are now known as Raja Zarith Sofiah Centre for Advanced Studies on Islam, Science and Civilization. We know we are just a small entity in UTM, but according to our first director and founder, even though we are small, but we are coming from a big tree. So that's the deep history that we have. And if we were to trace our historical ideas or historical lineage, intellectual lineage, I think most of our scholars here, the first director, founder, the earliest professors, they were trained at ISTEC before by Professor Syed Muhammad Nakir Alatas, our Royal Laureate Professor. So that's why, in terms of the history, in terms of the ideas, in terms of the manifestation of true spirit of university, we had already. So that's why we are continuing, the long journey of establishing this proper institution.
Yes.
And by virtue of having CASIS, RZS-CASIS in UTM, so it give more impact and give more meaning to the study of engineering, science, and technology with the proper purpose and meaningful.
Yes, it's very interesting, Dr. Hilmi, and from what I gather, you're trying to complement the other sciences and branches of knowledge in the university context. But Dr. Ikhwan, I'm wondering whether you could tell us more in terms of how CASIS seeks to differentiate itself, considering the vision of higher education that you were initially talking about. Because you very well know there's many advanced studies on Islam as well as elsewhere in this country as well as in the Western world as well these days. But perhaps can you clarify to us what is the distinction or the difference that you bring compared to all these other different academies of Islam and institutions of Islam globally?
Continuing on from what Dr. Hilmi have said, I think one distinguishing feature is that we acknowledge that knowledge is not to be abstracted from the persons, the authorities. So in establishing this center, when Professor Wan established this, it was a conscious decision and part of the intention that this establishment is in acknowledgement of the vast and deeply meaningful contribution of a scholar, which is Professor Syed Nakib Al-Atas. And we acknowledge that in our DNA. So that is, I think, one important distinguishing feature. But by acknowledging, it's not just by mentioning names, but also by taking heed of his ideas and celebrate his contributions, and continue further his project, okay, so to speak. Secondly, maybe of a bit more of a personal anecdote. I come from the sciences. I was trained as a mathematician.
Yes.
But at some point, different individuals may have like different intellectual journeys. So perhaps most people, when they enter into a particular field, and they'll proceed further, deeper and deeper into that field. But knowledge is never in isolation with one another. I mean, at some point, even in any particular field, as you probe deeper and deeper, you find that your soul and your intellect has come to a place where you have to seek elsewhere in order for you to make sense of your original field. So that was roughly the situation that I was in. It was a dilemma whether should I continue pursuing mathematics, or should I move on to something else. But this something else is not totally detached. It's not like you're starting afresh from. It is just something. It is still part of the same intellectual journey, and CASIS was newly established at that time, and I was fortunate enough because CASIS was there, and it is a place where a person like me could venture into a more philosophical and a more holistic and interdisciplinary outlook in studying the topics or the problems that you want to resolve.
Yeah.
So that was CASIS was that to me at that time. So it allows me the opportunity to explore other sciences in the vicinity, while grounding myself from in the intellectual spiritual framework that comes from the worldview of Islam, as we learn from Professor Al-Atas, and develop myself further. So that was the opportunity. That was the environment that CASIS provided me with at that time. So I think it is fair to say that what CASIS aspires is to provide a platform where meaningful interdisciplinary and cross-disciplinary studies can happen. And in order for us to be able to do that meaningfully, we need a solid intellectual framework. So otherwise, it will be just like amalgamation. It's just like putting things together, but they don't belong. So we need to develop that framework, and we need to have a framework, and we discuss that framework thoroughly in CASIS.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dr. Hilmi, I mean, you came from the Islamic University before, and you studied the religious sciences before. I mean, to continue what Dr. Ikhwan's train of thought, I mean, isn't this offered in to your knowledge? I'm sure you're exposed to what is being offered in the Muslim world, the other parts of the Muslim world, as well in the Arab world. Isn't this being offered already in the Muslim? Surely.
You mean the program at CASIS?
Yes, in terms of the approach and trying to relate to other sciences and trying to find a unifying framework.
I think from my humble observation, there have been many great institutions that are offering, this kind of courses, especially, in the Middle East, for example, Al-Azhar, in Morocco, Maghrib, and even in Malaysia, there are many Islamic sciences department, for example. But there are some aspects that we learn from Professor Al-Atas, for example, when he established ISTEC, he did say that the purpose of ISTEC is not to emulate what the existing institutions. So that's why he offers a unifying courses. There are three main branches: Islamic thought, Islamic sciences, and Islamic civilization.
Yes.
So we are also following, that method or that approach. So I think in that sense we are quite unique, because we are not only confined into a certain specific discipline only. For example, if you study usul fiqh, for example, because I was trained in usul fiqh, you just study the subject matter usul fiqh only. That's why I think here we are exposed to a universal framework first, and then we are trained to be specialized. That's why specialization, it comes later when we want to write our thesis. So that's why I think this is also a good point to discuss with regard to the universal knowledge and also particular knowledge. This is something that we must also be able to address in our current university framework. Because most of the universities, and even the current existing universities, much has been emphasized on the on particular knowledge, and they want to train to be a specialist. This is contrary to the learning experience in the past. Mostly in the past, scholars in the past, they were trained to be generalists. When they say they are mastery of all sciences, but they also specialize in certain field. I would like to quote Professor Al-Atas when he wrote a letter to the Secretariat of OIC, that then there was no OIC, but there was a Islamic Secretariat in Jeddah. He said that a Muslim scholar they are the overload of Muslim scholar. They are mastery of many sciences, but they are also specialized in certain field. So that's why what we aspire to develop at CASIS, we want to train the students to have mastery of many important sciences. But of course, the strength of the students will decide where he wants to specialize. So that's, I think, is the thing that we want to aspire here at CASIS.
It's a very inspirational aspiration indeed. But Dr. Ikhwan, wouldn't you say, I mean, this kind of lofty ambition, perhaps it is for something of the past, right? Where they were able to produce polymath. And Professor Al-Atas himself is a very unique figure. And today, perhaps there's a better need for specializations, what the universities are doing now. So how do you try to reconcile with this?
We're not trying to repeat whatever that is already there, and in acknowledgement of the contributions of the specializations of the sciences. By being a generalist does not necessarily mean you know every single detail of all sciences. I mean, that is quite impossible. It's impossible, in fact. Even in the past, when we say there were polymaths, first of all we have to acknowledge that such geniuses, they are far in between. It's not as if they are that common, but the nature of education and the nature of universities or madrasa or places of learning at that time was that an integrated and holistic understanding of knowledge as a whole was already assumed. Right? But now we live in a civilizational setting where everything is pretty much defined by this compartmentalization of knowledge and specialization and utter specialization of knowledge. And it has resulted in some crisis and some fundamental problems that they are facing us as a civilization. And some of these problems and challenges, we are still yet to have satisfying answers and way forward.
Yes.
Speak of the environmental problem. Globally, this is not. We're not talking about Malaysia necessarily. Talk about the environmental problems. Talk about the world economy, and they can speak of the, the discrepancy, the gap between the rich and the poor, or the inequality.
Right.
But these are, but the way we solve it is still compartmentalized. The way we talk about these things, when we speak of energy problem, environment problems, we're still trying to solve it through the same framework from which the problems arose.
Yeah, sure.
So surely there must be, surely the solution lies elsewhere.
Right.
And surely, where is the best place for for us to deliberate and really attack these problems, if not in universities? But if all universities do is educating through compartmentalized specializations, then when can we have all these integrated and holistic solution to these problems? So it has to happen in university, because the university is a place where all the most educated, the most intelligent, the most the ones endowed with intellectual capacities and resources gravitate. But if everyone is focusing on their respective narrow fields, then who is going to deal with the generalities? So it does not necessarily mean that that if a person studies at CASIS, he'll know everything. But he will know something of his own specialization. He'll know something of the fundamental and universal framework, and he'll know how to connect that with other fields as much as possible. So that is the nature of our courses.
It's very interesting when you mention about how when many specialists try to tackle a problem, it's always seen through their own respective specialization. And it reminds me of this analogy, Dr. Hilmi, from Jalaluddin Rumi, of the four blind men and the elephant. The blind men, they would approach the elephant and touch the various parts of the elephant, thinking that is the reality of the elephant. But they don't see the whole big picture. Only the man who is not blind would be able to see. Dr. Hilmi, on continuing to what Dr. Ikhwan was saying, so what exactly the kind of graduates are you trying to produce here at CASIS? It's a graduate school, but I mean, are you able to somehow produce the kind of people who can be part of the solution that of the kind that Dr. Ikhwan is speaking of to that extent?
Yeah, of course. The answer is already inherited in your question, Dr. Syafiq. And of course, the students or graduates that we are going to produce is reflective of our philosophy at CASIS. As I and Dr. Ikhwan also mentioned just now, we are established on the Christian philosophy based on Professor Syed Muhammad Al-Atas, Adab, especially derived and inspired by the teaching of the Tasawuf and the thinkers of Islam in the past and today. So that's why the graduates that we are producing here, they must at least possess a good adab, the right adab. Adab is not only confined to etiquette only, but adab in the sense that the students know their proper places, and not only their proper places, but also all the realities in their proper places. The knowledge, scholars, parents, environments, universities, and so forth. So these are the things that we want to cultivate among the students. On top of that, also because we want to teach universal knowledge, for example, so the students must possess at least the major sciences here. This is not the case that we want to produce Jack of all traders, master of none. but at least the student they have sufficient knowledge of the universal knowledge, and then they can make a fair decision later. So that's why I think it's also important to point the fact that, you know, the distinction is more important. Okay, the education of general and specialist, it is based on what Rasalatas I quoted from his work, Islamic philosophy of science. He said the commonalities is the existence. Being existent is common to all. So that's why we study the general knowledge. For example, the self, the human being knowledge, because these are common to human being, especially the proper knowledge, the proper nature of man, the very purpose of university. So I think this something must be shared together with all the universities, all the students. Even the staff must also be able to possess this universal knowledge. Right. And this is not only we Muslim scholars address this problem. Even in the West, you know, some of the Western thinkers, for example, Jacques Maritain, John Newman, right? Newman. He wrote important books on university, I think, the philosophy of university, right?
The meaning of university.
The meaning of university.
The idea of university.
The idea of university. Right. They saw the problem in the West, because the West, they have been so much specialized, so they couldn't produce a good student, for example, and good graduates. So that's why this is not our own problems, but also shared by the Western scholars, Western thinkers. Right. So that's why we aspire to produce students of good adab, of course, and also students who are also have a good credential knowledge, who possess this master of knowledge, the general knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Hilmi. Dr. Ikhwan, there's always that perception that when you have an academic center associated with Islam, usually the tendency is to produce graduates who will serve the community as imams or as an ustaz, usually in that sense. Is that how would you address that perception in this case, CASIS?
Yeah, because Dr. Hilmi mentioned adab, and when we speak of adab and we speak of education, almost all the time we imagine young children. We forget that we ourselves as adults, we need education as well, and this is a lifelong education, and life is itself an educational process. There are centers of lifelong learning, but what they mean is like career growth and exploring opportunities, but that's not what we mean. So when we speak of adab, and we're not limiting it to children, and also we're not limiting it to this romantic religious setting that you have to be ustad, you have to be imam, and you have to be and because there's you need only so much imams and ustaz and pegawai masjid, but the rest of us, are we not supposed to be religious? And can't we be religious if we don't work in the masjid? So what does it mean to be religious if you're a businessman? What does it mean to be religious if you're a politician? What does it mean to be religious if you're a scientist, an engineer? What does it mean? So always we have this separation. Okay, engineer is one thing, but being religious is something else. And as if religious knowledge or Islamic knowledge does not have any bearing upon your practice as an engineer, right? So and this is also what we learned from Professor Alatas. He was, as far as we are concerned, he's perhaps the only one who pointed out that adab does not necessarily mean etiquette, does not necessarily mean just these good manners. There's adab all over reality, and if you look at nature, there's adab there. There are things are already in their proper places. They are in harmony, and it takes a certain mind or intellect to perceive that and understand that and reflects upon that, and reflects upon our own position as a human being in this order of reality and existence, in the order of whether natural reality or the societal political reality, and our social context. And so in that sense, we've resolved the dichotomy of what is and what ought to be. Because the West, they always speak of, okay, that's what is, and which is the sciences, and that's what ought to be, which is the morality and ethics, which is conventional, based on conventions. and hence they arrive at a problem where, okay, we know we're not supposed to destroy our environment, but we're going to do it anyway, because if we don't do it, then the other guy will do it, and they'll get more powerful. It's always that competition, as if what is and what ought to be, they are separate issues. But we're saying that what is and what ought to be is off the same unified framework of an ontological framework, and it has its places, and what ought to be has bearings on what is, and what is has bearings on what ought to be.
Okay, that's very philosophically significant, actually, because indeed, I think in a lot of our academia or universities in the Muslim world, we are still assuming a very Western or secularized philosophical assumption without unknowingly. I think this is your point. I mean, for someone who has studied in the West, I think perhaps this is very crucial. But also, Dr. Hilmi, I was wondering whether you could try to capture the imagination of our wider audience in terms of what kind of individuals do you foresee if we continue this vision of higher education at CASIS? What kind of individuals, basically, in different sectors that you imagine would play a role, and what kind of role will they be playing, continuing to, what we have discussed so far?
Yeah, of course, the very purpose of education is to produce a man of adab, a good man. I think this is something that we uphold, the principle of purpose of education. I want to reiterate what Dr. Ikhwan mentioned just now. There have been a lot of education or school of education in many universities, and they are good because they develop some aspect of education in terms of the behavior, ethics. But some other part also they are certain limitation, because the education is meant for educating students to understand certain subjects, not the overall whole of philosophy of education. So that's why there are school education in physics, science, even in religion, in usuluddin. So we know they are meant to educate students, to teach students on that particular subject. So I think this is already good. But on top of that, I think we miss the overall overarching philosophy or concept of education, which is to be a good man. So that's why the end game of university is to produce a good man, actually. Even though you are in various sectors, you are leaders, you are professionals, you are engineers, even you are, even you are housewife, for example. Ultimately, the purpose of this education is to produce a good man, a good person.
But gentlemen, how would that address a lot of the complex problems that we face in the world today? Because initially you were talking about, how problems are being addressed by specialists are not being really addressed. But granted, this is very important. I mean, returning to the correct purpose of education. But how will being a good man and a person who does not separate between being religious, by that I think you mean someone who is well informed and practices the religion, and has the right perspective, right, and not necessarily outward appearance in that sense. So how will your graduates with this vision of higher education actually address a lot of these problems that we're seeing in terms of environmental problems and psychological problems and all these existential crises we're seeing, this division in societies? Dr. Ikhwan, how do you at least foresee? Can you give?
I mean, it's an assumption to say that complex problems require complex solutions. And the problems are many, and we are facing with tremendous problems, and surely the solution would require various specializations and cutting-edge research. But don't underestimate the power of a housewife, for example, or a pensioner, or a person who is working in the, for example, in the charitable doing charitable work, and just dismissing that these sort of works contribute nothing to the economic growth of a country, for example. Or contribute nothing to the to resolving our environmental problems. As a matter of fact, they are part and parcel of a lot of things, and we have no idea the significance of, say, a mother who can impart profound wisdom and truths that has informed and enlightened generations of human beings to be able to behave and to be able to be a proper human being. When because the function of this mother is nowhere in the statistics. No, you can't detect that through the statistics, and there's no. She might not be paying taxes, and so there's no. When all of our our parameters and our indicators, she's just invisible within this very sophisticated machinery that we've construct ourselves to deal with these problems. And yet, the role that this mother is playing is of such significance that had the community of mothers disappeared suddenly, we immediately face like huge problems.
Yes.
And so just by imagining that, so a pensioner, I mean, what has got a pensioner got to do with a PhD?
Yeah.
And he's not gonna, enter into another university and become a professor or something.
Right.
So if our mindset is just like that, and then we're far from seeing the big picture and the solution. Because the PhD is not just for academic credentials. The PhD, the program is for this person to be able to grasp and understand his position and his place and his role in this large order of being in existence and in society and in his nation. And with that understanding and that knowledge, when the occasion presents itself, he'll be able to make the right decisions, sound decisions, to open opportunities for, to parties of to individuals whose unless that insight was given to this person, the system and the framework that we use to judge human beings would not detect this person as being eligible or as being worthy or of an opportunity, educational opportunity to be given. I hope it's not too abstract. I mean, I don't.
That's very concrete.
Can I because the question that Dr. Syafiq has asked, I think is the same problem that have been asking by many people. What CASIS, for example, can contribute to the problem or the current problems? Yeah. I think we should be
with this vision that you're espousing.
With this vision, correct. Yeah. I think we must be realistic that not all problems are resolvable within our own capacity. I think we establish the fact that we cannot solve many things. There are many problems that we cannot resolve.
Not in one generation at least.
Yes, correct. Correct. Yeah. So that's why we are based on our own strength, which is knowledge, philosophy, and education. So that's why you can see, some of the students who are coming to CASIS, even though they are not trained in academic, for example, they are housewife, for example. They come here, they want to study Ghazali, for example. They want to study Bakilani, for example. So they want to associate with the great ideas in the past. They are also pilot, for example. He is not trained in academic, for example, but he loves knowledge. Right. He comes to our classes, our kuliah. Even he contributes some of the equipment for other students to study. Right. So they are part of this big mission. And they also, some students who are not trained in religious study, for example, because they are passionate in knowledge, they push themselves, to study Arabic, for example. Dr. Ikhwan, for example, he doesn't have background in Arabic, but he pushed himself to study Arabic and managed to, to study Arabic texts, especially the text of Al-Biruni and Ibn Sina. Right? Yeah.
That's okay. Dr. Hilmi, perhaps, and Dr. Ikhwan, perhaps towards the end of our episode for this particular conversation. So basically, what kind of students or individuals you hope to be involved in this vision of higher education? It seems like it's a very broad one. You welcome people of various backgrounds, and they have been involved in your programs, in academic programs. But perhaps who would you like to see being part of this vision of higher education? I'm sure the people in this university, one way or the other, they're trying to best utilize your presence here. But who is this vision of higher education for at CASIS? I mean, who do you hope to be welcoming, at this point as well as in the future? Perhaps both of you can.
Well, in light of the current problem of university, I think most of university they are going through this existential crisis. In a sense, how do they want to decide their own identity and their path, right? Because there are many external factors that contributing to this problem of universities. But at least I think in most of the universities, like I say for example, we are still holding to the fundamental principle of knowledge. So that's why we cannot run away. Even though you are producing students, graduates, master, PhD, but it's the basic foundation of learning must be there. So that's why we hope that there are maybe some students who are aspiring to be scholars, to study our history, for example, philosophy, also perhaps to be a good man, good person. I think they can, they can consider, to choose CASIS to their field of, to their place of study. Because Alhamdulillah, I think I would say that CASIS, we humbly offering a comprehensive learning experience to the students. For example, you can get the coherent framework because we are inspired by Professor Syed Muhammad Alatas philosophical framework. The students can also learn with other scholars here and overseas, and they also train to be a scholarly, to be involved in scholarly work. For example, in publication, in research, in organizing programs. So they are all scholarly related, programs. So that's why we expose students to this kind of, programs.
I think when you speak of producing scholars as well, I think surely that must be among your main priorities, considering there's a dearth of such individuals who are exposed to the ideas and vision that you're speaking of. Correct. Is it not? Is it not?
I think our purpose is not meant to be producing scholars only, but at least to have students who have scholarly outlook. Right. At least they possess the scholarly outlook based on established philosophy and foundation.
Truly educated,
correct,
in that sense,
correct,
in the higher sense. Ikhwan, what would you say to the scientists and technologists, or people from your field?
I was about to answer your first question, that who should study here.
Sure, please. But including to the scientists and technologists.
Yeah, I was going there. I was getting there. I mean, in a general answer would be anyone who's intelligent, hardworking, and sincere should come and study in CASIS. But as a person trained in mathematics and in the sciences, I would, it's my personal aspiration to see more of those who are trained in that background and in the sciences and engineering and in mathematics to come and explore the civilizational and philosophical dimension, epistemological dimension of their fields. I think there's a lot of things to explore. There's a lot of things to talk about, to discuss. Even if we speak of even the fundamental physical sciences like physics, and I think the science of physics requires some tajdeed. Can I say that? Renewal. When it has stumbled into like an impasse for a very long time. Definitely there are many progresses made of late, but if you look at the big ideas, the general framework is still Einsteinian. Is still what has been like around for 100 years. Right. Even the progress in computing and in AI, and most would see AI as something new, but those who know would know that these ideas have been around for quite some time, a lot of time, for a very long time. It just so happens that of late, in the past 10 years, we have the computing power and we have the data, because everybody uses the internet and they have social media. So a lot of text and images and videos has been uploaded, and the computing power that comes with it, suddenly all ideas have its uses, and it becomes generative AI, and it becomes the tools that we see today. But however, we have to talk about the consequence of this. There are many consequences of these new sciences that has not been properly thought and thought through. The ethical consequence, philosophical consequence, and also environmental consequence. And we tend to avoid this this discussion because after all, we need our AI data centers, right? It's for our own safety and sovereignty. But the elephant in the room is still just like if last decade we're complaining about the crisis of environment and how we've overused our energy resources, and suddenly now we're talking about like let's squeeze the earth even more, and for the sake of AI. And so these are all the sort of things that has to be dealt with, and those who are trained in the sciences have direct access to some of these ideas and some of the development, most recent developments in these fields. So maybe some of them could join us and explore some of the assumptions and presumptions underlying these sciences, and what are we going to do about it.
Okay, gentlemen, before we end, perhaps I can ask each of you, perhaps in as brief as possible, maybe just in few sentences, what again is, if you could reiterate, what is the vision of higher education that you are advocating for and that we should be aspiring for, Dr. Hilmi?
Producing a good man.
Thank you. Dr. Ikhwan?
Universal education.
Thank you. Gentlemen, it's been a real honor, alhamdulillah. Inshallah, we hope to learn more from you in our second part of this conversation, inshallah.
Look forward.
Ladies and gentlemen, with that, we're honored to have Dr. Muhammad Hilmi Ramli. He's the director at the Raja Zarith Sofiah Centre for Advanced Studies on Islam, Science and Civilization, RZS-CASIS, as well as his colleague, Dr. Muhammad Ikhwan Azlan, a senior lecturer at RZS-CASIS in UTM KL, to discuss on the question of the vision of higher education. Thank you very much. Taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.